Let's move now to the second work session on essential public facilities. Staff, would you please kick this off? Community planning, I believe this is yours.
Good morning, counselors. This is actually my first time actually being in here in front of the council, so I might be a little nervous, but we'll get through this pretty quickly. For the record, my name is Michael Salas. I'm a planner in the Community Planning Office, and we're here to discuss the essential public facilities. Next slide. So this is the, we're just going to talk about a few things like the background, a proposed action that we are taking, and then staff's findings and PC recommendations from the Planning Commission, and then sort of the next steps. Next slide. First, just give you a little bit of the background of essential public facilities. Essential public facilities, or EPF, means a public facility owned or operated by a unit of local, state, or federal government, public or private entity, transportation company, or any other entity that provides a public service as a primary mission and can sometimes be difficult to cite. Next slide. So one of the things they asked in the past is why now? And so the reason why we're doing this now is, one, because of the comprehensive plan, but the other is each county planning under GMA, under RCW 3670A.040, shall establish a process for identifying and citing essential public facilities. Essential public facilities is not defined in a existing code as we have it for those that are difficult to cite in Clark County. So this is why we're here, is to make sure that that's covered. Next slide. So if a EPF does not present a citing difficulty, it is permitted through the normal Type 2 process under development and would require a conditional use permit. If it is considered difficult to cite, it will fall under a Type 3 process and still be required to do a conditional use permit. Next slide. The findings that we have, the staff found that the code updates that we're proposing are consistent under GMA and the WAC and the comprehensive plan. And lastly, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the EPF code updates at their last hearing. Next slide. So right now we're here, we had the Planning Commission do a work session. We also had a public hearing back on August 17th, and then we have a work session with you guys today. And then hopefully what we're asking is that we would have a public hearing for this to make those updates possible and approve what those would look like. And so not sure when that next meeting would be, or the hearing would be, but that's where we're at with essential public facilities. So I'll kind of open it up to discussion and comments.
Chair?
Go ahead, please, Councilor Young.
Thank you. So the Planning Commission, there was a recommendation. What was the vote? Was there a minority or was it unanimous?
It was a 4-to-1 vote.
4-to-1? Yeah. And can you elaborate a little bit on what the one vote may have been centered around?
I think it had to do with partially making sure that the assumptions that we put in for the code was had the right type of criteria that that the applicant can follow, and that I think it was mostly from a standpoint of being able to allow for the public had a say in what was going on with regards to EPFs. We do have a process for that, and if you look in the code under D, it does talk about what our requirements are and what we have for an applicant to go through for the difficult siting of public facilities. That was part of it. The other was had more to do with what happened in the past. I honestly weren't here at that time. So what I did is we actually sat down with that and had a discussion with that person that to show him where in the document, in the updates, that we did cover what his concerns were.
Was that after or before the vote?
After.
After, okay.
So, yeah, we met with Councilor Marash. He had some questions about some of the language in the code and how the criteria would be applicable. And so we shared with him that, and he understood that. I think he still had some issue based on a case where he represented some neighbors for citing a facility. And so it's trying to balance both sides of making sure that there's enough of a process for the neighboring parties and their concerns, but also these are facilities that are supposed to be allowed, and so allowing enough of a process so that everyone feels heard. We're going to provide you with the Planning Commission's deliberations and the code sections a few weeks before the hearing when it gets scheduled, so you can see that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council or comments? Anything that staff wishes to add? Well, hearing nothing at this time, we thank you for your report and work session. And we look forward to continuing on this matter when needed. And meanwhile, I guess it's time for us to move on into council time.
Thank you.
Thanks again. We begin with public comment.